passive. Sorry guys if that intro is too cringy. I just want to do the thing where they put the helmet in front of them and pretend to lift it off. You know what I mean, like in Power Rangers when they take off their helmets, they don't actually take them off, they just put them in front of their head and then move them aside. I thought that'd be interesting to do, but whatever. This is my review for episode 2 of Power Rangers Beast Morphers, and for those of you who were concerned that the quality would drop after the first episode, let me just say that this episode was even better than the premiere, which I didn't even know if it was possible because I absolutely love this premiere, but this episode did so many things right, and if the season continues like this, we are in for a fantastic season. Of course, we can't tell right now if the quality is going to carry through, but I sure hope it does. Unfortunately today, I probably won't be using any visual aids or, pictures to show you what was going on in the show because Hasbro keeps claiming videos, so I'm just going to be talking about it, but I'll have links to a bunch of different clips in the description below for you guys if you want to go ahead and see what I'm talking about, because Power Rangers Official, the YouTube channel, did upload a ton of clips from the episode, so there's your visual aid if you want to check that out afterwards. But yeah, like usual, I'm going to go ahead and start off by giving a summary of the episode, and then I'm going to go back afterwards and say what I liked, what I didn't like, and just discuss it. The episode starts off in the cyber dimension. That's where actually Blaze, Roxy, and Evox were sent to by Nate, and there we meet another sort of general or evil antagonist named Scrozzle. Has that sort of doom-wing voice, kind of annoying, and I talked about that in my sneak peek video, but you know what, you get used to it after a while. Anyways, he was there, he was kind of ruling the little area that they were teleported to. He actually created the Tronics, which are the foot soldiers for this season, to protect himself from an evil villain. I forget what his name is. Actually, his name was Vargoyle. That's another person in this dimension. Although we didn't get to see Vargoyle, he was just mentioned by Scrozzle, who said he created the Tronics to protect himself from that individual, and I'm guessing we will meet them in future episodes. It's there that Evox just kind of takes over immediately and sends Scrozzle as well as Blaze to the actual world, not this cyber dimension, which I have very many questions about, to go ahead and steal some more X, because it was stated in this episode that for Evox to get back to the actual world, or the normal world, he's going to need an enormous amount of Morphex, and only avatars or robots can actually be sent back using a little bit of Morphex, which they did steal, actually, in the first episode. We just didn't see it, so they had a little bit of Morphex with them, was able to send Blaze as well as Scrozzle to the actual world, to Grid Battle Force to steal some more. Meanwhile, back at Grid Battle Force, the Rangers meet their Beast Bots, which is the little robots that roam around with them. We've got Cruz for the Red Ranger, we got Smash for the Blue Ranger, and Jax for the Yellow Ranger. I like them. I wasn't so sure that I was going to like these individual characters. Of course, I would have had to have seen them first, but I do like their personalities, especially Jax, that little yellow rabbit, has sort of like a New York accent. Kind of reminds me of Danny DeVito, to be honest. It's also mentioned that Ben and Betty don't have like a solid job at Grid Battle Force. They just do whatever Commander Shaw tells them. They were inventing stuff in this episode. Last episode, they worked security, so it looks like they're really going to do anything, whatever the plot demands, they're going to be there, which I kind of like that. It is also mentioned by Commander Shaw that there needs to be a leader for the Power Rangers, and Ravi as well as Zoe are arguing who should get the position. Devin doesn't really care, he just thinks this entire thing is cool, and then the alarm goes off. There's an attack outside of Grid Battle Force. Scrozzle as well as Blaze are attacking the facility to steal more Morph X. So the Rangers go out, they morph, and a battle ensues, which I really enjoyed. It is also revealed here that the Rangers actually have weaknesses because of the contact that the evil virus Evox made with the animal DNA when, the Rangers were first being morphed. Anyways, these weaknesses are something that's linked to their animal characteristics. So Devin, the Red Ranger, Cheetah, and cheetahs are cats. They're scared of dogs. So whenever he sees a dog, he freezes, which is pretty interesting. It's similar to the Red Go Busters Ranger in Super Sentai, where if he saw a chicken, he'd freeze, so something similar to that. Zoe, after bouncing a bunch like a rabbit, will get tired and will need to eat carrots to replenish her energy. That one's my least favorite. And Ravi, when he gets too heated, when he gets too much into a battle, he starts to go crazy and wild like a gorilla. So yeah, during the battle, these weaknesses made themselves apparent and the Rangers couldn't fight anymore and they were sent back to be taken care of. Although Devin, he was fine because once the dog ran away, he was unfrozen, but the other two did have to be taken care of, and Scrozzle actually uses Morphex to power a giant robot to go ahead and attack the city, and Devin, being the only able Ranger there, has to go fight him himself. And to do that, he has to get in his Zord, so he gets like the battle mode of the Zord and goes out and starts fighting this giant robot, which was very cool. I really enjoyed that. And before he leaves, he actually reminds Zoe as well as Ravi that they do need to work together, need to put this whole leadership thing aside while they deal with a threat, then do it later, you know, showing some leadership skills. I think you can tell where this is going. But anyways, then he goes and fights the monster. During this battle, Devin spots a billboard with a dog on it, and of course, he does freeze. And it was around this time that they actually realized what the weaknesses were for the Rangers. It wasn't back when I mentioned it, but it was later on. But the other two Rangers are healed, and they go and help Devin. They get into their individual Zords. No Megazord battle this episode, but, you know, that was fine. I still really enjoyed it. And they go out and help Devin defeat the monster. At the very end, Devin accepts a leadership position, and the episode ends there. And it was really good. I really enjoyed it. Before I get into the good, which there was a ton of, let me get into the bad. There's just a couple of things. And this is when I'm really getting nitpicky here. This is not like problems, like a huge problem I had with it. First off, I feel like the Rangers are rushing into their positions a little bit fast. I mentioned that in my previous review video, and a lot of people have been, you know, talking about it. Blaze as well as Roxy were trained quite a bit to become Rangers. Devin and Zoe come out of nowhere, and Commander Shaw, as well as everyone else, just kind of like immediately accepts it. Maybe if they gave, like, I don't know, the explanation that each morpher, or whenever they're morphed, it's tied to their DNA, which actually I think it is. They just haven't come out and said it. Similar to Time Force, where they just can't do anything about it, but they seem to be really fine with it, and I just feel like it's moving a little bit fast, but nothing too bad. It's fine. Hopefully they do show some conflict with that later on, and Commander Shaw's like, man, I wish Blaze and Roxy were here, or something like that. And speaking of Commander Shaw, I still don't like the character. It comes off as bland, boring, and just not all that interesting. Hopefully that does change in the future. Like I said, we're 2 episodes in. I can't completely judge this character, but for 2 episodes now, I just don't like her. And really the only other thing I have to complain about is Scrozzle's voice, and that's just not a big deal at all, you know what I mean? So really, this episode barely had any problems, and it was just a great time. This was some of the best Zord battles I've actually ever seen, and I really hope that we see more like it. Now, I said it in a previous video, and I was wrong, okay? And you guys made sure to point that out in the comments section. I thought the cockpit scenes, because you weren't going back to the big room where all the Rangers were in, like in the Neo Saban era, that it was actually Sentai footage that they were using for the Zord cockpit scenes. I was wrong. That's all new American footage, and I did really like it. Devin got to use the Cheetah Beast Blaster, which is something that he uses to power up his Zord on the outside, but on the inside he kind of like uses a blaster to control it. It's a little weird how that works, but I do really like that blaster. That's all 100% Power Ranger blaster. It's not from Super Sentai or anything, so that was pretty cool. I do really like the Zord cockpit scenes. They look really nice. Hopefully that does carry over, because I'm not the biggest fan of Zord battles, but I did really enjoy this one. Hopefully it just doesn't get back into that formulaic, okay, Megazord, fight the monster, that's it. Hopefully we get more, you know, Zords not combined into a Megazord, because I do really like that. Of course, the Megazord is fine, and I really like the Megazord for this season. We haven't seen it in action like an actual episode, but we have seen it in trailers, and it looks really cool. I'd actually really like to see that in battle next week in the next episode. I'm pretty sure that would happen anyways, because, you know, now they got their Zords down, now they have a team leader, it just makes sense. So I was right in a way when I actually, you know, predicted what we'd see for this episode. I said they probably won't bust out the Zords yet, or see a Megazord. I was kind of half right. They busted out the Zords, but there was no Megazord. I think that was good for this episode at least, so they can get, you know, a little bit of control, a little bit used to their own individual Zords, then move on to Megazord. In the next episode, they seem to be pacing the season very well, which I definitely think is good, because previous seasons, especially Neo Saban era, seem to move very fast, and while this seems to be moving a little bit fast as well, just in a good way, you know what I mean? They're kind of like really getting into the action, but they're, you know, doing that sort of thing, like the Zord stuff, taking it a little bit slow, making sure that it builds up throughout the season, or throughout the episodes in a good way. This season has a lot of potential, because, I mean, if you think about it, they left so many, like, unanswered questions in this episode. I feel like every time I watched an episode of Power Rangers in the Neo Saban era, I'm like, where do they go from here? Just more filler? that makes sense. They don't have much story to work with, but there's a lot of things that they have going for them in this season that they still have yet to explore, and let me get into a couple of things. First off, we barely know anything about Grid Battle Force or Commander Shaw, which I hope she gets more of a backstory. I'm sure she will. We still have Devin's dad, Mayor Daniels, to deal with. He doesn't know that his son is a ranger. Maybe he won't because their identities have to remain a secret. We don't know anything about the cyber dimension or Scrozzle. Really, there seems to be a lot of backstory there. I think I'll do a separate video talking about the cyber dimension itself because it's very interesting and it seems to have a lot of backstory, and even characters like the Vargoyle, I think, was mentioned in this episode, has to be brought up sooner or later, actually come out in the cyber dimension. So that character we have yet to see as well. There's just so many things that they've mentioned or that they've brought up, that they've introduced in the season, and in next episodes or in following episodes they can really explore. So while I'm sure we'll still have filler episodes and that filler B plot, I think instead of the Osaban era where the filler is the A plot, I think it's going to be the B plot like it's supposed to be, and we actually have a lot of different stories going on at the same time moving forward for them to explore. They definitely have an opportunity to do so. I mean, they've definitely laid the groundwork for a lot of storylines in this season. They really just have to unlock that full potential. It's being set up so well. Whether or not they're going to, follow through, I don't know, but it's set up almost perfectly where they have so many different directions to go so far. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about Devin being the leader because, I mean, his character just came off a little bit, too wild, maybe not generic in the first episode. I did really like his character, but Ravi as well as Zoe were kind of the standouts from the previous episode. But in this episode, I liked him a lot more, and I'm fine with him, being the leader, having sort of that carefree attitude, and by that, I mean, he doesn't seem to have much of an ego. He is there to do his job. He wants to have fun, and he wants to help, the Earth, which is fine. Ravi as well as Zoe seem to sort of have an ego, really care where they fall, in the leadership spectrum, but Devin, he's just there to do his job. He is there to save people. He doesn't have like any, personal agenda. He's there to do his job. I feel like I've said that like 10 times. And so I think that makes him the perfect leader. His personality actually fits it. I couldn't even think of that in the previous episode because he just came off a little too crazy in the previous episode. He kind of toned down in this one, and I think he's going to accept that leader well, he did accept the leadership position, but I think he's going to fill it very well in the coming episodes, and I am very excited to see him as Red Ranger throughout the rest of the season. So all the characters I like so far, like I said, Commander Shaw, but the Rangers I really do like, and even Ben and Betty, they're actually kind of funny. I do enjoy them, and the fact that they don't have any like concrete job in Grid Battle Force is good because they can be wherever the plot demands, and they can really fit in well without kind of like inserting themselves in there, because if they just stayed security, they could only really come up in, areas where they needed security. You know what I mean? But if they have multiple different jobs, they do whatever Commander Shaw tells them to, they can be in the story and do different things. I think that's cool. Little is still known about Evox. I kind of like Evox, but right now we're just gonna have to, find out more in the coming episodes. Hopefully, Evox's backstory is explained a little bit better. Of course, that's another thing. Evox's backstory. They have so many things that they've just kind of brought up a tiny little bit, and that they actually need to unlock the full potential over. And I feel like out of everything that I mentioned, that you can fill out 20 episodes of story, so they definitely have it set up nice. And I can't wait for episode 3 and all of the other episodes. So yeah, if you haven't watched this episode, go ahead and give it a watch. I mean, I'm not going to give it like a score out of 10. I don't really like doing that, but it's definitely worth watching. If you're a Power Rangers fan, you will love it. Almost guaranteed. And yeah, that's about it. I love the episode. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the episode if you've already seen it. What did you like? What didn't you like? Are you excited for episode 3? That being said, everybody, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in next video. Peace. Shoot. Forgot to mention that they haven't actually gone into a morphing sequence yet that isn't in real time. What I mean is that when the Rangers morph, they don't go into green screen land, they don't go into this big montage where they all morph at once. They actually do it sort of like right there on screen. A vortex appears around them and they morph. And I really like it. I've mentioned it before in the different teasers and everything. But the thing is that even though it is still episode 2, we have yet to see it, and it may carry over to the rest of the season. What do you guys think about that? Where the Rangers just morph in front of you every time? So it cuts all of the the extra footage that we've seen a million times already of them morphing. It adds a little bit more originality to it, and it makes it a little bit more believable that they're actually morphing like right in front of you. And I love it. I mean, the Red Ranger, I think, did it twice in this episode, where he morphed with all the other Rangers, which you've seen in the previews and everything. But then he also morphed when he was going to go fight by himself, and the vortex appeared again, and we still haven't seen that green screen effect where they go ahead and morph, if you know what I mean. So, if you have to see that, I love it. Hopefully it stays that way. Alright, peace.